9 years ago, my classmates and I were just beginning our last year of seminary. We were in 4th theology, and we were taking, among other classes, a class that I don't really remember a whole lot about. It's probably not a good thing. But I do remember the professor, another priest, putting before us a very unsettling question early in the fall semester. And he said, guys, what would it take for you to leave the priesthood? What would it take for you to leave the priesthood? He wasn't exactly looking for an answer right then and there. But he wanted us to reflect upon it and first and at least admit that this life that we were preparing for, this life that we had fallen in love with, this life that we could not wait to enter, that it was at least possible to leave it, to walk away from it. That if we allowed ourselves, or we ourselves put ourselves in certain corners, that these are real corners that if we were in, we would leave priesthood. We would walk away. In some ways, it's like marriage. No married couple ever enters into marriage thinking, yeah, I'm going to leave eventually this marriage. But it's possible. Just like married couples, seminarians have to know and always be aware of that it is possible to walk away from this life. And it's an unsettling question. And our Lord puts before us this weekend an unsettling scenario with kind of a singular question, a similar question at the heart of it. Guys, what would it take for you and I to leave the company of our Lord? To leave a life of discipleship, to walk away from our Catholic Christian church? What would it take for you and I to leave his company? Our Lord starts out in today's gospel by noticing that it's not a small crowd that's following him. As the author of Luke points out, there is a great crowd following Jesus today, an enormous crowd. And certainly there are those who have followed our Lord there for the right reasons. They are true disciples of him. They really are following him. But certainly there were those in that crowd, those among that crowd that were perhaps there for other reasons, following something else other than our Lord. Surely there were people there just wanting to see the spectacle. That is Jesus Christ. They had heard about this wonder worker, this miracle worker, this person who's been healing others, this person who's been expelling demons, this person who's been multiplying loaves and fishes. They wanted to see the spectacle. They'd been hearing about this guy who has this new message, this different message. They just wanted to see the spectacle. They were following the spectacle. They were falling in love, not with Jesus, but with what he did and what he said. And so our Lord notices this. He notices this great crowd. And right away he has to get their attention. He sees that there's all these people following him, but he wants to say, look, if you really want to follow me, here's what it's all about. Here's what it's going to cost. Then answer the question, do you really want to be a disciple? And so in order to get their attention, he has to use a bit of hyperbole. And he gets their attention with a very unsettling statement. Unless you come to me and hate your father and your mother, your wife and your children, unless you hate your very self, you cannot be my disciple. Of course, our Lord is not saying that we have to hate our family if we want to be his disciple. Of course, our Lord is not saying that we have to hate ourselves if we want to be his disciple. In fact, we should not hate our family. We should not hate ourselves. Again, he's making use of some hyperbole in order to get to the point that if we are truly going to be disciples of God, if we are truly going to be disciples of Jesus Christ, we have to love him with an undivided love. We have to love him with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength. We have to love him with a love that is so profound, so foundational, and is subject that all of our other loves, all of our other desires, all of our other worries and cares and the people in our life, that love is all subject to the primary love and the first love of God. And that love of God motivates all of our other loves. So he uses this hyperbole to kind of get that point across. To get that point across to those who are just falling in love with the spectacle, those who are just following the spectacle of Jesus. But after he gets the crowd's attention, he right away backs off the hyperbole. And he then starts preaching to them the truth and what it's really going to cost to be a disciple. And he says two things. If anyone does not carry his own cross and come after me, he cannot be my disciple. If anyone does not renounce all his or her possessions, they cannot be my disciple. All of our possessions. They cannot be my disciple. In other words, the Lord is saying, if we love not suffering, if we love not sacrificing more than we love the one who suffers and sacrifices for us, then we cannot be the disciple of Jesus. If we love not being in pain more than we love the painstaking cost of spreading the good news and our Lord's message, then we cannot be the Lord's disciple. If we love the stuff of our life, the money, the possessions, our time, and all the security that the stuff of our life gives us, if we love that stuff more than we love the one who gave up heaven to go through hell for us, we cannot be his disciple. Our Lord today is defining for us who is the true disciple and what an undivided heart, a love of God, that primary and foundational love, looks like. And guys, just as there were people that probably left our Lord's company in today's gospel after him defining true discipleship, we also know people, sadly, that have left our great crowd, this great company of our Lord's church, his parish, and of our Lord's discipleship. We know people who have left the faith. Some, it didn't take much. It wasn't much of a cost that they had to endure. Some, they had to endure a tremendous cost before they walked away, before they left. What would it take for you and I to walk away from our Lord? What would it take for you and I to leave his company and his church? Is there something out there that exists that if it were asked of us, it would be too much, and we could not do it, we could not endure it, and we would walk away? Or is our love of Jesus Christ, our love of God, so primary and so foundational and motivates all of our other loves in our life? Is it so deep that there is nothing that our love and discipleship would not endure? And if you ever wonder, and I mean this, if you ever wonder, is such a love possible? Is such a primary and foundational, motivational love, is that love of Jesus Christ possible? If you ever wonder that, look around our parishes. Look at the people that sit in our pews. Learn about the lives of our brothers and sisters in our midst, and know the answer to that question. We have people in our midst whose discipleship and love of God that is so deep They follow him. And their love endures despite physical hardship, despite the tremendous amount of effort that it just takes to get out of bed in the morning, let alone to get to church and to participate in the life of our parish. We can look to the front rows, almost always, of our church and see people who endure hardship all the time. If you ever wonder if your love can endure, know that there are people in our parish who have endured great humiliation and great persecution outside of these walls for their Catholic faith. Know that there are people who have endured job loss and the humiliating experience of having to ask for help of our Lord through his church. And their love and discipleship endured. In fact, it deepened. If you ever wonder if such a love is possible, know that there are people whose love endures despite being hurt and betrayed, sometimes by the very disciples we go to church with, by me, by being hurt and betrayed by those in church leadership, with all the church scandals. People whose love has endured despite death. Death of a spouse, death of a child, death of a grandchild. In fact, I meet with a woman who's buried a husband, 5 children, and 2 grandchildren. And she continues to ask the Lord what is his will for her. She continues to go to him in love and prayer and follow him. Know that there are people who have endured the realization of great personal sin in their own life only to discover much more deeply the God of mercy. My point, guys, is that if you ever wonder if it is possible to have such a love of Jesus Christ that it is primary and foundational and motivates all of our other loves, the answer is yes, and we have only to look in our midst. We have only to look around our churches and see that it is possible. Yes, it is possible for all of us to walk away from this, to fall in love with just the spectacle of Jesus Christ, what he can do for us, what he says to us. It is possible to walk away from that, but it is possible to fall so deeply and madly in love with Jesus Christ that there is literally nothing that could come our way. And our faith and discipleship would not endure all the more.